Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're looking at the 10 hardest God of War bosses.
This will all be over soon.
Taking pity on you has been my greatest mistake, Kratos. Just as taking pity on this thing will prove to be your greatest mistake.
For this list, we'll be looking at the toughest bosses Kratos has ever gone up against. Which epic battle gave you the most grief? Be sure to let us know.
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Theseus, God of War 2.
You seek the sisters to kill Zeus. You no longer possess the powers of a god, Kratos.
Any boss that summons minions to fight you is bound to be annoying, and that's just what the hero of Athens does. The demigod stands in Kratos' path and foolishly challenges him to a fight. While he's no match for Kratos' speed, the abilities to increase his attack power and summon giant ice spikes from the ground can be troublesome if you don't stay on your toes. In his second phase, he'll hop out of reach to shoot Kratos from afar. The continuous ice barrage and pair of minotaurs he sicks on you means there's a lot to watch out for on screen. Just don't stop moving. Charon, God of War, Chains of Olympus.
The gods have obviously taken pity on their slave. You underestimate me, Charon.
You might not expect a servant like the ferryman of the dead to put up a tough fight, but Charon has more than a few unfair qualities. The first time you fight him is actually impossible to win. Halfway through, he'll heal himself and throw Kratos off his boat. While this does give you a chance to get used to his attacks, the second fight introduces new ones. All in all, Charon can teleport, send out shockwaves, and his scythe gives him long range. He'll also heal himself at least 3 different times, unless Kratos destroys the pillars fueling him. His energy projectiles are easy enough to deflect, but everything else makes him pretty easy to hate. Persephone, God of War, Chains of Olympus.
Spartan, witness the end.
Kratos wouldn't face the king of the underworld until a later sequel, though he did fight his queen in this spin-off. And she's a final boss to boot. Donned in armor and a massive set of wings, Persephone is well fortified. Her attacks come quickly, such as diving and dashing into Kratos or kicking giant boulders at him.
Die, Spartan. Go to her. Be with her.
She can also easily dodge Kratos due to her speed, which can lead to you wasting powerful attacks. Dodging and parrying is a key component to this fight, especially in the second half when Persephone utilizes energy pillars from below. But unlike Charon, she can deflect your deflections right back at you, a la Ganondorf from Ocarina of Time. The Sisters of Fate, God of War 2. They're the one thing between Kratos and Zeus. Just one of these sisters would be a challenge, but the trio teams up for an absolute gauntlet. First up is Lachesis, with her long-range staff, energy waves, and ground slams. If that wasn't bad enough, she'll also fly in the air to shoot projectiles and electrocute the ground. After that is Atropus, who shares in her sister's inclination towards electrifying everything, but also summons hordes of enemies. You then have to fight both of them together, with Atropus shooting Kratos from the sidelines, while Lachesis attacks head-on. Then there's Clotho, whose fight is designed around puzzle solving while avoiding being smashed by her giant fists. At least they're only a family of 3. Svartaljofurr, god of war. Being able to see the enemy is pretty important in a boss fight, which is one of the reasons that this asshat earns his spot. The king of the Dark Elves attacks Kratos and Atreus on their way out of his realm, and it's immediately apparent how he earned his crown. The king is extremely quick, diving around the arena and lunging with his spear, but he also produces darkness, which can make it difficult to tell where he'll attack from next. He'll shoot energy mines from his spear, which will stun Kratos if he's caught in the blast, and open him up for damage. He can be incredibly frustrating, and gods help you if you're playing on higher difficulties. But that makes it all the sweeter when you finally take him down. Hades, god of war 3. As one of the 3 big gods of the Greek pantheon, Hades does not disappoint. What makes him tough is his somewhat random attack pattern and his wide area of effect. If Kratos gets too close to him, he'll stomp the ground, but the claws of Hades has just as much reach as Kratos' blades of chaos, which means keeping your distance doesn't ensure safety. Hades will slam the claws across the ground and sweep them across the arena, with both forcing Kratos to keep moving. At his most irritating, Hades will produce an attack that covers the whole arena except for one safe spot, and on the ability to summon the undead, and you've got one tough as nails boss. Baldur and Freya, god of war.
I'll deal with you later, but family first.
The final fight of God of War's latest venture is naturally a long one. Each encounter with Baldur throughout the game showcases his impressive speed, as he pummels Kratos at any opportunity. But his attacks are even harder to avoid here, putting Svartaljofurr's speed to shame.
This will all be over soon.
Freya doesn't help matters, using magic to summon vines to bind you, reanimating the corpse of a giant, and summoning Draugr in an attempt to stop you from fighting her son. Plus, Baldur will begin to switch back and forth between fire and ice forms, which forces Kratos to change between the Blades of Chaos and the Leviathan Axe in order to deal damage. It's an epic finale befitting an extraordinary game.
Well done, boy.
Ares, god of war.
Your final lesson is at hand.
The finale of the first game, which sees Kratos usurp the mantle of God of War, is impressive to say the least. And it certainly makes you work for it. Using the power of Pandora's box, Kratos grows to match Ares' gigantic size. But it takes a lot more than that to gain the upper hand. Many of Ares' attacks are unblockable and deal a hefty amount of damage. He uses back-mounted spires to slice through Kratos, though he also fancies a giant fire-spitting hammer and raining down fireballs from above. And that's just the first sequence. The second sees Kratos transported to a nightmare world where he has to defend his family from evil doppelgangers. While the finale is a sword duel where Ares can teleport and produce molten pillars from below. Zeus, God of War 3.
Taking pity on you has been my greatest mistake, Kratos. Just as taking pity on this thing will prove to be your greatest mistake.
The fight with Zeus in God of War 2 is hard enough, but the climactic confrontation in God of War 3 is even tougher. For starters, the first sequence is set on a 2D plane, which makes for less room to dodge attacks. And speaking of attacks, Zeus's are relentless.
I'll put an end to this chaos.
Not only can he teleport and fly, but his lightning can hit from above and below. Even with the second phase switching to a 3D arena, it doesn't get any easier to avoid his attacks. Although they're similar to those of other bosses, Zeus's lightning projectiles and ground slams are much stronger and more difficult to avoid. But it's when he begins to clone and heal himself that Zeus reaches peak difficulty. You'll need to keep up a constant barrage of attacks if you hope to defeat him.
I grow weary. I shudder.
Sigrun, God of War. For players seeking the ultimate challenge, there isn't anything in this series tougher than the Queen of Valkyries. You'll first have to defeat the 8 other Valkyries hidden throughout the world, all of whom are challenging in their own right. Sigrun, however, is in a league of her own, able to utilise all the attacks of her underlings. The only difference is that they are significantly stronger here. Ice, fire, dive bombing, face stomping, wing slices, it's an onslaught that will truly test your patience. No matter the armor set, Sigrun can put Kratos down in a handful of attacks. It takes an immense effort to defeat her, and those who have should wear that feat as a badge of honor.
Thank you, friends. You have saved the Valkyries.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, there's more where that came from.